coffee.
Maybe in the fall.
Yeah, we need some.
Not right now.
Yeah. I get really like stressed.
I'm teaching, yeah, and FYS, and I work for the Small Business Development Center, so they kind of broke this into teach. So I did last fall, and I'm doing it again.
No, actually, on the list of training.
We're just gonna do the enhancement part. So we're just gonna do one, and I think maybe
Oh, okay. So you do though have it set, so it'll start recording. Oh, okay.
She's good.
That works for me.
Yeah, I've got 14, 8, and 100, and we've got 4.
We will go ahead and get started, since it's a little after 1. Gabriella went to go see if there's anything that we can do about the temperature in the room. She tried to manipulate it, but I thought it was kind of like a false control, because normally in this building, everything's on one centralized control. But we'll see if we can get you more comfortable. I know there was no other room available when I booked this, so that's why I put us in here. So I apologize for it being a little bit small, but we'll see if we can do that. I'm Michelle Barber, by the way, and I am the Director of Retention and Academic Advising. And just literally last month, FYS transitioned to my area. Always before, if you had any interaction, I know you're all new instructors to FYS, but always before, if you had any interaction across campus related to FYS, you probably had interaction with Laura Pace, because she had overseen this for many years in partnership with Dr. Couch. And so there's been some shifting of duties and that type of thing. So it's now in my umbrella of resources. And just to give you some background information as to kind of how FYS fits in with the work that we do in my area, we, in my department, are focused, anything that's academic success oriented, usually my office will have a hand in. For example, and it's a lot of outreach. And we touch all of the undergraduate students in my office. They're either assigned to my professional staff across campus, or we have degree completion coaches who work with students who help to support and supplement the good advising that happens with faculty advisors as well. So an example of this, for example, we are currently we're pulling a list today to do some outreach to all of the students in the 13 counties that have been impacted by the flooding, for example. And the outreach is going to consist of what can we do to ensure that your transition to MSU in less than 2 weeks is seamless. Because this is a true retention initiative. Because my fear, and on a call yesterday with the president, is that I know people from that area. That's my area. I'm from Letcher County, and lost my family home, my childhood home. My brother was living there, and so that's why I couldn't be with you all Thursday, so I apologize for that. But anyway, back to what I was saying, I totally understand that some of our students, for example, may have some reservation about leaving their family, especially in such a level of devastation. And so we're going to try as much as possible to make touch points with those students, provide a level of support here at the university so we can be an anchor so that they feel comfortable transitioning.
I'm sorry.
Are we going to move?
We can move to 301.
It's open?
It's open for sure.
Okay.
And she says it's a little cold.
Xavier, would you be okay if we move to get more comfortable? I know you've got everything set up.
Not a problem.
Are you sure? Okay. Would everybody prefer to move? Is the room that comfortable for everyone?
I feel like the air's coming out now.
So you think maybe Gabrielle fixed it whenever she fixed it?
Well,
We think that it's coming out now. Gabrielle kind of took her. Do you
Okay,
think
good, I'm
so?
not getting that. Yeah, I was
I don't
gonna
know.
say.
I was sitting before I started moving. I was like, it feels hot in this ballroom. And Jordan's like, well, I think ballroom A was freezing and B wasn't. So I just didn't even think about it. But I didn't think about this. This room is usually pretty cool.
Okay.
So if you think it's coming out, that's right, because we've got.
So here's what I'll say, is the offer still open? If we, in the next few minutes, find that it's just not getting more comfortable, can we move to 301?
All the rooms are booked.
Oh, crap. I thought you said the other one was open.
Yeah, I thought it was, and 329 was open until 1. They're getting ready to come into that.
Okay.
Okay.
So.
Think about us. Well, we got your roasted right here in the bar.
Just be cool, our
But y'all
way.
need the video, right?
Well, we're videotaping the sessions,
Let me check the here.
Do we
The
need
library
video or
was-
just?
no, we won't necessarily need it, except for one session they may. But anyway, back to what I was saying is, we're going to be reaching out to those students with personal touch points as best we can to connect with those students. And the reason I wanted to share this element with you is because this is exactly the level of high touch that we hope happens in the first year seminar classes. We want the students to feel, that they come to Morehead State with the understanding, because we do a good job of that. My staff are the ones that do onboarding with new students. And we do, I think, a pretty decent job of explaining the fact that, yes, you're going to a regional sized institution, but we are still small enough, and this is the beauty of what you can get at MSU, we get to know you. We know when you may have struggles. We know that you might have access issues to resources, those types of things. And so we try to alleviate all those barriers. So we tell them, so they truly come to MSU. So all the freshmen that's going to be in your classes, they're already coming with the expectation that they're going to have that person, whether it's their advisor, whether it's their FYS person who's teaching their class, or they find another way to find that anchor. And many of them do. But sometimes in student cases, it takes multiple prongs of support in order to provide support for them. So I just wanted to kind of start today with that discussion. I'm sure that message came very clear on Thursday. And so the folks that stepped in for me, I was so grateful for them doing that. But just wanted to explain to you also why I wasn't able to be here and how it fits into the bigger picture of what we're trying to do with our students that are affected as well, to get them here in transition so that they can be productive and move forward from day one of the semester, which is literally starts in 2 weeks from yesterday. So we're less than 2 weeks out, which is frightful in many ways, but we'll be ready. Oh, okay, thank you. So it sounds like they're gonna address the temperature issue. So another place that I wanted to start as well is kind of to recap a bit of what it is that maybe you discussed on Thursday. So does anybody have any thoughts about, or anything that resonated with you that you would have heard on Thursday? Yes.
Aaron Hirsch spoke with us about community building
Yes.
of our classes.
Yeah. Have you been given thought to the community building aspect and how you plan to do that?
Yeah, I think one specific way is to do icebreaker questions, just kind of starting each day.
That's a perfect segue, because not everybody that's here today was able to be here on Thursday. So why don't we do an icebreaker? And Andrew was not a plant. And simple one, and sometimes students get really nervous about this type of thing, and many of you all are pros in the classroom anyway, and so I understand that. But let's go around the room just a bit, and just for my sake, if nothing more than me, since I didn't get to meet all of you all and get to really connect with you on Thursday, tell me a little bit about your role and what interested you in your role here at the university, and then what interested you in taking this leap to teach first year seminar this fall. So I kind of told you a little bit about my role because, it's now my department and I've taught it for many, many years. It's a passion I have because in order for me to be relevant in my real professional role here at the university, I have to understand the needs of our students, and they'll tell you way more than you even want to know. And so for me, that's why I do that. It's the ability to connect with the students. So whoever wants to go next, Melinda, would you want to start?
I'm sure. Okay, I work with clinical practice with student teachers here at Morehead State University. And I also teach a couple of classes on, special education for the exceptional children. And so it came to me from Tim Simpson.
Okay.
They needed someone. And I thought, well, that might be.
Multiple someones.
I know, and they need some extra people. And so I thought, well, maybe, just reach out, that it would be something interesting, with the first year students. And a lot of my students in 230 are freshman students. And the characteristics of students that you see, and, I see all those. And, I think, that it's just so important to keep the kids here. That's our responsibility. And, for them to, and I always love going to graduation. and to see those kids coming on those graduations.
Absolutely,
And to see those kids, but, you know, to think about the kids who missed,
right,
who didn't get to go to graduation.
Right.
You know, who, and for no fault of their own.
right.
Right.
Okay, well, thank you for sharing that for sure. Kim, would you
Okay,
like to?
I also work with clinical practice, and I'm gonna do 2 units of the 101E, and I think it's a challenge to try to keep these students interested in school, because we know with COVID and society pulling them in lots of directions, they lose those goals so easily. So the
Absolutely.
way the program is set up, just from where I've been reading and studying, I think it really does provide a lot of opportunities for us to help them, and I'm excited about, you know, working with, I've always worked with student teachers, so this will be my first time with freshmen.
Great.
But I have grandchildren, one that's in sophomore in high school, and I said, you know, I can see what these young people are going through.
Right.
Challenges.
I mean, it's just all about, you know, computers, and that's great,
Right.
but all they want to do is just everything virtual. So with the reading, we're going to try to bring it to life, I hope.
Well, and I'm glad that that's the mindset that you have,
Yes.
because FYS is really the class. Now, we have 3 online sections for
Right.
students that need that,
Definitely.
but it's really the class where we want them to be interacting with one another in person, you know?
We have to teach them those skills.
Absolutely.
We think they know how to do all
Yes.
this, but they don't.
Yes.
So I'm Sean, and this is my 3rd retirement.
You just don't like retirement, do you?
What is wrong with you?
Like, I don't want to be at home with you all the time.
No, he's a great guy. But I retired with 27 years in K-12 public school education, and my master's degrees are in administration, and I'm a reading specialist. So I literally, for 34 years, have been teaching people to read from kindergarten to adults. So I was very passionate about this when the opportunity was presented. I talked to Tim and Lori, and I was shocked. Not shocked, I was sad that they needed this many sections of the reading enhancement, because kids are below the benchmark, and we don't even know the reasons. I mean, it could just be COVID, it could be the way they have test anxiety or whatever. But I know how
I have
important,
16 results so far.
I know how
Are you on
important
board
that
with us?
freshman year is to their overall sustainability of being able to stay away from home and keep up with the coursework and make new friends and just, you know, learning a new culture. Many of these students, I mean, my first teaching assignment was a kindergarten class at Melvin Elementary in Cannon County. And
We're probably
I
having
know
to
the
do
culture
that.
there, and I know these kids
So,
are
but it's
shocked
all-
when they
all of
come
them
here and
are-
the announce. It's
Yeah.
pretty more with all the things.
Xavier is participating in Staff Congress. He's
That's
helping
what
us
I
right now
figured.
videoing, so
That's what I
you can
figured
just
he was
ignore him.
doing. I first looked back and then I thought, oh, he's just
Stop
doing
talking to
it. Anyway, so that's how I came to this, and so I was being happily retired again because I was teaching education courses, but I did not teach last spring. I decided I didn't want to work full time anymore. But then this opportunity arose, and I was like, sure.
We're very appreciative that you took the opportunity.
There's a lot happening.
I'm Bev Winkleman. I taught in Round County and retired MSU in 13.
Yeah, that's just a
And
title.
came back
That
and
doesn't
worked
have
to
the
16,
options. I wanna be able to read
went
it.
home and came back. So when you all
Nobody likes
retire.
retirement. I got Bill when I can get there.
So, I worked with student teachers from 2007 to 2014, and then I worked with field experience.
Okay.
And then last semester, I worked with student teachers again, but like Melinda, Tim sent out an email, I was looking for reading
500.
instructors, so I was going to work part-time, and now I'm working full-time.
Oh, wow.
So.
It's a big leap.
You never know from day to day, you know, but I'm really looking forward to it, and I feel like we'll make friends. with a
Absolutely.
lot
We're
of
thrilled to have you.
kids, and not buddy type friends,
Right.
but, you know, I mean, I want
Connections.
my students to feel comfortable with me as not, and, you know, that if I can't help them, I can find who can. But, you know, I know a lot of that stuff is for the regular FYS, and we're the reading, but I still feel like we need to do
Absolutely.
the same, a lot of the same,
And-
maybe different stuff, but
True.
what we can do.
but to really coordinate and be cohesive. To explain to everyone else kind of how what they're talking about, they have the enhanced portions. And so I don't know that anybody in here is teaching an enhanced, but just for the, that's right, you are, I forgot about that, yes indeed.
I am.
Oh, Meg, I didn't realize you were.
Yay.
Okay,
Yeah.
okay, that wasn't on my radar, but I remembered yours. Anyway, so the way that the enhanced portion works, it should be a strong partnership amongst the instructors. The students need to see this as a totally unified front. Now, in the past, that's not always been the case, and so we intentionally, whenever Tim was able to identify the first two that are with us now of the group of four, it was very exciting to me because I've always taught an E until this year, and so I don't know how I got out of an E, but I'm okay with that. I've taught non-E, but in tandem with E's, and so we've not necessarily worked as partners in the past, and so there was a disconnect that was created for the students because they saw it as, oh, here's my FYS portion, oh, here's my E portion, and it was two distinct entities. And so our goal this semester is to forge that close connection so that the student doesn't at all think that there's two separate classes, even though there's additional classes for the E that they have to go to each week. But they should see it as one class with two partnering instructors. And so that's the goal. And for everybody else who may not understand the concept of the E, it is designed for students who fall short of the state benchmarks in the reading sub-score on the ACT. Now, you kind of touched on this, Sean, when you were saying, didn't know, it's kind of sad that we need 4. What I can tell you, and this grows across the board, not just for the E students, but what I can tell you after seeing all of the incoming freshmen come through my office for SOAR this summer, spring and summer, and still continuing, is that we have a lofty need of students who are underprepared, more so than ever before. And we know all the factors, you listed them. It's COVID, it's all sorts of things. But the reality is, none of that really matters because we've got to address their needs once they get here. And so that's exactly what we're trying to do. And so, yes, we've got a number of enhanced courses. We also know, too, in the past, we were very aggressive to get students to placement test, and we're still actively encouraging that they do that because the benefit for them is they only have to go to class either Monday, Wednesday, Friday, or Tuesday, Thursday, but if they have the E, then they literally go those other days throughout the week as well. So, that's the benefit for some students. They don't want to go to their FYS class as many times. But if they need it, then it's a great service. But what we found this summer, we had a group here that just left on Friday. They're called the Success Academy students, and it's for students that are targeted more so by the enhanced courses, generally, with some type of need, generally academic need. What we found is that we were seeing fewer students than in my history. Again, I'm sure it may be different across the board, but in my history of my role, fewer students were placing up and out of developmental or college readiness courses. That's across the board in math and English and reading, just so you know that. So what that means is they truly do need the high level of support that we're building into this course. And just so you know, for the enhanced students, just so you know too, we have college readiness very similar to the enhanced model for reading built into English and mathematics across campus as well. So those 3 component areas, and we have a number of students, a good number of students who are in all 3 of the enhanced. So just be aware of that too. So even if you have a student that may not be in the E portion with you for FYS, they may likely have an E math because math is our most common need that we've always had. I should say, I have to catch myself saying always. In my tenure of history, the last 12 years, math is the most common need that we have across the board. Second to that would be reading and then English. So just to explain that a little further, that's kind of what the E is for the folks that may not be aware. So I'm sorry I cut you off with your icebreaker.
No, you're fine. My name is Leslie Toy, and I work at the Alumni Relations Office here on campus.
Good to meet you, Leslie.
It's nice to
Officially.
meet you too, Michelle. So I'm retired from the public school system as a school administrator, and somehow through connections got pulled into the office part-time, and that lasted a very short while, and then I went full-time. The joke is I do a job for about 3 months, and then they're gonna put me in another role that they need me in, which I don't know if that's good or bad.
That happens.
But it's kind of our joke in the office. What are you doing today? I'm like, I don't know. So anyway, I was softly recruited to do the hearing class, and I'm excited to meet the hearing
It's
students.
a great program. It really is.
I was a hearing mentor last year and
Oh, okay.
really got close to my mentee, I guess I should say, and still have contact with her. And so I just thought it was, a good fit, and there you go.
Very good. Well, thank you. Welcome.
Thank you.
Hey, I'm Meg. I'm the coordinator for undergrad research, and so that's kind of the gig. In that role is FYS. You get to opportunity to teach, but prior to this, I was in K-12 education, administration, and teaching, and previously I had done adult higher ed. So I'm really passionate about learning, design, and teaching, and am in a program now studying learning design. So I'm really excited about the opportunity and ready to work with the students. I'm ready for them to get here. So
We're excited to have you, Meg. You've been, is it a couple months you've been here so far?
Yeah.
And every time I see her, there's always a smile. And, and to me, students respond to that. They pick up on those things. And so I think you've got half the battle won because they know you're going to be a friendly, welcoming presence in their class. So that's good.
I think they'll love and hate me.
But
in a good way.
Deaf Congress is not using 329, so if you want to go over there.
What's the consensus?
I'm okay.
Is everybody okay? It's cooling off a little bit, believe it or not. I even feel a little more cooler standing here.
Okay.
Thank you so much.
It's still,
Okay.
Stuff is really hot, so it's
Yes.
with me, cause like I can feel it. It's coming down on me.
It's gonna get cooler. It's gonna get cooler. We're gonna say it is.
It's such a really hot.
Okay, okay.
My name is Andrew Sexton. I work in the same department as Meg, except I'm the coordinator of service learning. I'm new to my position. I was hired just 2 weeks ago.
Oh, wow. I didn't realize it was just 2 weeks. Well,
And
welcome, Andrew.
I'm really excited to be here. I was a student, graduated 2 times from MSU, 2020 with a degree in psych, 2022 in a master in public admin. And I'm looking forward to getting some formal teaching experience.
Good. Well, welcome back, and we're glad you're part of the team.
Thank you.
Yeah, you're working with a great team too, and your unit, so.
You really are.
Totally. We'll bypass Sager. So Ellen, would you like to go?
Yes, my name is Ellen Bowman. I work with Student Support Services, and we work with first generation, low income students. So if you know any that need extra support, send them our way. We're a grant funded program, and so we have to meet the criteria the grant stipulates. I have taught journalism classes and communication classes. I haven't seen FYS handled like it is handled here. And when I worked elsewhere, I won't state where that was, it was very unfortunate. I mean, it was really sad. Because it was a great place to find students that matched, what I did, because I worked student support services there as well. And so I was, trolling the halls. And so I would ask them, what are you learning in there? And they're like, I napped. He put on a video and walked out of the room, and I went to sleep. So I'm like, okay, that's great. Because this is the time that you have to affect that person
That's right.
in the most positive way.
Yes.
And it's so exciting, the things that are available. And what is wild is a student would say, oh, I want to be a nurse, I want to be a nurse. And after I got to know them, she's like, I really hate people. So then I'm like, hey, hey, how about medical lab tech? You can work with blood and pee and poop. And she's like, yay. So, you know, sometimes the students just don't have a clue,
Right.
often, I should say, not sometimes, often they don't have a clue. And it's just an opportunity to tap into their strengths that they don't even realize they have.
Indeed.
And it seems so sad, you know, where I worked previously, that FYS was not handled in the best way, and I think this just looks fantastic.
Well, and I don't know Thursday if this even came up, but the evolution of FYS in its present state had a lot of iterations. And, you know, we didn't always have it right here. And there's obviously plenty of area for enhancement. And so, you know, we try to do that every semester to really look at those. And so we'll talk a little bit later today, but you'll have an opportunity to provide your feedback on ways that you think that we can improve the class, because this is your class and you can really impact change with that. So every 4 weeks we ask you, what do you think? How are these lessons? How does this work? Other comments you have. So, you know, think back when you received that to Ellen, because she's seen it not work really well, and we've gotten some things right, but there's still areas that we need to improve upon. And so that's the approach that I take with first year seminar. It works. I can tell you it works well. Our students appreciate. Now, you always will have the naysayers, but the students tell us on their evaluations, when they are evaluated every 4 weeks, that they appreciate the information. And what they'll tell you in class is, I really was dreading this. I thought it was going to be such a bore, but wow, I learned so much. Particularly about financial aid and things like that that they learn about. It's things that are totally relevant to them and their success. So that's what we try to do here at Ellen, so I'm glad that you've already picked up on that.
Oh, yeah.
So thank you, for sure. We're glad to have you.
My name is Lakin Johnson. I've worked full-time at MSU now for a little over 7 years. The majority of that time has been in the registrar's office with the dual credit program. I just recently started a new position in IT. This will be my first teaching experience, but I love working with students. Come from a family of educators. My wife's been a high school teacher for 10 years. My mom was a teacher. You know, I just think it's important to, you know, the freshmen when they're coming in, make them feel welcome, make them feel comfortable when they're on campus. I know when I was a freshman at MSU, you know, there was a lot of times when I was 18, I just felt kind of lost. So, you know, hopefully you know, one of the many things I do is just, you know, help these students in a big transition period in their life, you know, be comfortable and be successful.
Well, thank you for sharing that. We're happy to have you for sure. Rachel?
I am Rachel Bowling. I work for the Small Business Development Center here at MSU. A lot of people don't even know we exist, but we help small businesses get started, both startup and established businesses. I got roped into this. No, this will be my second semester teaching. My previous boss had done it once, and he recommended it. We're grant funded at the SBDC, so this is a way that I have found to be able to give back to MSU. You know, they front the money for our program, and that's something that I just enjoy, is being able to help people. Like I said, I taught this last semester, and I just really didn't give them the opportunity to, I don't know, like say, well, she didn't help me, or she didn't do this, or whatever. So really just getting to know them, and like I brought in guest speakers at the different levels, and, you know, brought them breakfast, and just gave them every chance to, you know, if something was going on with them, or anything like that. Just kept open-minded communication to be able to build relationships and stuff like that. So yeah, just getting through this hard, you know, transition period. I was a freshman not too many years ago, and so it's just a way for us to give back to MSU since they help us a lot.
Very good. Well, thank you so much for wanting to give back. And it's definitely a good way to look at it when you teach this class, for sure. Next, Gabriel?
Sure. I'm Gabrielle Sexton. I've been at the university since the fall of 2000 in administrative support positions. I'm a recent graduate of Morehead State University in the spring. My degree was in sociology with a gender studies minor, and I took a lot of Appalachian studies courses. I believe that higher ed for most people is the key to success, and I really changing the lives of our society and our communities. I have a passion to help and support, and I'm very much looking forward to this opportunity that I didn't think I wanted, but I'm going to give a
As
shot
I hear you were
to.
encouraged or coerced.
Wasn't too bad.
Well, Gabrielle, I've worked with Gabrielle a number of years because she most recently worked in Dr. Couch's office, and she's amazing. And so when I heard that you were agreeing to teach, I was elated because just like what I'm sensing from many of you all that I don't know well yet, the desire to assist our students is just rampant in this room. And so certainly with Gabrielle, I know firsthand. So great to hear. Yes, ma'am.
Hi everybody, I'm Casey, and I am the Associate Director over in Student Housing. So if you ever want a fun story, I have
Plenty.
a lot. I am a doctoral candidate at UK currently, and was a faculty member there, which is how I got placed here. So when I left UK to come here, my director poached me, so he's lovely. But I met with Laura Pace, and she was like, "You taught at UK?" And I was like, "Yes, I did. I taught public health courses, which is what my doctorate is in." And so she was like, "Would you be interested?" And I was like, "Well, sure." And so something that I have actually not shared with anybody here at MSU is I was an at-risk student going into my undergrad in Pennsylvania. I'm not from here. And so I was an at-risk student because of English and math. So not reading, I love to read. Hardcore nerd. But, so I had to take the placement tests and then also take the remedial course there. They called them remedial at that time, so
Yeah.
like super offensive, right?
Yes, it is.
But now I'm a doctoral candidate. And so I like to share that with students that are like, this isn't me. Like this is not it isn't me, but like it isn't for me because I come from a rural situation. I also came from a rural situation. I worked on a farm growing up, like now I'm a vegan because I worked on a farm. But anyway, and so I just kind of help those students understand that, to help them see where they could be if they
Yes.
wanted to.
Yes.
It's not for everybody. Higher ed isn't for everybody, and that's also okay. But if you want to, you can do.
Yes.
So that's kind of my.
Thank you for sharing. And I want to touch on that. I am someone who, because of the work that I do, I have to really keep myself on task, and so I'll try to do that. You have an agenda, but it's very fluid at this point because Dr. Couch was supposed to join us, and she's been pulled to some meetings that she had to attend. So I've kind of flip-flopped some things. So you'll see me kind of gravitating in and out of the agenda, but I wanted you to kind of see the topics that we would be talking about today, but it will change a bit. But hearing Casey talk, you won't necessarily know your students that are at risk. I feel that instructors should have that. And so Dr. Couch and I have talked very recently about preparing you with some additional information about your students. But in the past, that's not necessarily been the case. And so to me, especially when we know as an institution that we have more students coming in with at-risk and needs and that type of thing, we want to provide you with that level of information so that you can support them in the way that you deem appropriate. And of course, we've got a lot of recommendations about that too. So I'm so happy to meet all of you. There's still a couple of people that are new instructors, and that's why we're videoing today. So if anybody has any problems with the videoing, let me know. What Xavier will do is he's literally just going through the different sessions because we did have a couple of folks that couldn't join us today. So I should have said that earlier, but just so you know, it won't be dispersed widely or anything like that. So feel comfortable to say things that you want to say as topics arise. So what I am going to do is go ahead and start talking a little bit about the topic breakdown and tips and tricks. Now, I'm not saying that I'm the expert in all of this by any stretch. In fact, I'm not at all. And I have other people, even my staff, who do a lot better job of this than I do. But the beauty of FYS, and Sean and I were talking about this, is, the core of the course is created for you. And that is the thinking, because here's what happened. One of my staff has what she refers to as the roommate test. And what used to happen is we would have students come in and they would say, "Oh, this happened in my FYS class." What? I didn't have anything like that in my FYS class. There was no level of consistency. And so the roommate test was, this roommate had a very different experience than this roommate. And that's not what we want for an orientation course. We want to know that all of our students are getting to the university and getting the information, the skills, the connections, the resources, all the above that they need in order to not only do well at our institution, but to thrive and to be leaders, just as Casey was saying, you know, regardless of what label of at-risk they may have. And many of our students have multiple labels of risk. And so that leveling of the playing field really drove, there was a committee, there's a standing committee that is appointed by Faculty Senate as a subcommittee for FYS. Dr. Couch chairs that. I'm on that committee, and there's various folks that are. But there was a committee that came in to say, okay, you know, this is best practices. This is what a lot of other schools are doing, and they're seeing tremendous retention gains as a result of their first year experience course. Why aren't we doing this? And so the decision was made that we would do a total revamp of the course as it is now. And so what happened was, various topics were decided upon, and if you have the syllabus with you right now, I'm going to explain why I have draft on there and why you haven't received an electronic copy of this. Just today, Dr. Couch informed me that there's an addendum added to the syllabus template for all syllabi across campus, and that was a recommendation for resources for all students to know. And so that will be added. So again, this is a template. You'll get the electronic version where you'll update the information that's on the front with your information, office hours and contact information. Yes?
Do you have any extra copies?
Yeah.
Could
Yeah,
we get
I
one?
do. I'm sorry, Andrew. I thought I gave one to everyone. I apologize. Well,
Mine's still in my office.
okay. Anybody else need a copy? I've got one. Okay. But in terms of looking at the core curriculum, we do want everyone to teach according to the syllabus as much as possible, to literally follow the core curriculum. Here's what I'm going to say, and Dr. Couch may explain this a little differently based on, you know, her wants and needs and expectations, but I want that your personalities will shine through. I want you to be able to take this course. It is your course. But I want you to use those unique facets of your personality and your desire to help the students and why you chose FYS to teach it. That's why I was asking in that icebreaker. I want you to incorporate those pieces. Feel comfortable doing that. You can add to, but we at least expect that you're going to cover the basic components of what's in the syllabus right now. Now, what I will also tell you too is that there are some adjustments that need to be made. We're looking to see on a couple of areas. For the last several years, we've had speakers that all FYS students would go to see in Button Hall or wherever or online. We're not sure how that's going to work. We're right now still negotiating to see if we're going to have the speakers come, particularly C.L. Lindsay, and you'll see him on there for campus safety. And so there will be some adjustments to the syllabus. But what I can tell you is I'm going to try as much as I possibly can not to shake up any of the weeks on here unless there's an error, and it's possible because I'm the one who slated this out, so I could have made an error. But I've tried to look at the academic calendar and all those types of things. So the weeks won't necessarily change, and likely the big picture topics for each week won't change. But we may have some components within that week that may change just a bit. Now, the goal is to have all that finalized before the semester begins. You know, we've got less than 2 weeks, but we're getting there. We're getting there. So just know that there may be some changes, that minor tweaks that will be necessary. So, you know, also when the committee was working to structure the course with the topics and the components to the curriculum, any course, and all of you are educators in some way or another, there's always going to be learning outcomes associated. And so you can see, and I want you to familiarize yourself with the learning components or the learning outcomes for the FYS course. Now, these are assessed through various assignments that the students do. And part of the FYS committee, subcommittee, that I told you is appointed by Faculty Senate, their task is they do the calculations and the assessment of the information where the students complete the assessment tool. So you don't have to worry about that. You just need to ensure as best you can that the students complete those various assignments. And so what we've done on the syllabus is connect those learning outcomes that would be assessed. You will see that when you start looking at the assignments, you will see what learning outcome is being assessed for that particular week and or that assignment. So I wanted to bring that out so you understood that connection there. If you have questions about that, certainly we can go into that a little deeper, but I just wanted to make sure that everybody understood what that meant. Some people may say, especially if you look down to number 8, general education learning outcomes, students read college level text for comprehension. You know, you've already figured out we've got enhanced reading as a mission for some students. But you will find that that can be a challenge. That can be a challenge. And why not get that identified and assess that so that we can provide the support that students may need into other aspects of the curriculum that they're going to be going into as well. So that's one of the reasons that that's built into the curriculum also, because we see that as a challenge. You can review, obviously, the required materials that you'll see. There is no text for first year seminar. Everything that you're going to need, with the exception of the reading, but some of those are there too, is built into the assignments already, meaning the readings, the excerpts, the PowerPoints, the teaching lessons, all that's built in for you. Now, if you probably haven't had access to the Blackboard Shell yet, but you will. That's coming very, very soon. Okay? And Xavier's been working on that to assist us as well. What you will see is that there's a lesson for each week. Now, it's a script, and we've taken a lot of time to build in, because we have some instructors, you know, all of you all are it seems to be, I'm picking up that you're either an old pro, I shouldn't say old, a very seasoned pro in the educational realm, seasoned, or you've had experience teaching in other realms. So you may not need to closely follow every single word that's in the lesson for the week. But if you get tripped up, you have that resource to do that. So just know that. I have some of my staff, some of the retention staff, that, especially the new ones, that have not been in the classroom. And they are so panicked. And so when they get into the Blackboard Shell and they start looking at the resources that we've built in FYS for the instructor, a lot of that apprehension is relieved. So what I'm going to say is, again, please closely follow the curriculum as much as possible. Make sure that you're hitting on all the components, because in the lesson, the assignments are driven towards making sure that the students are receiving, synthesizing, and retaining the material, obviously. But if there's pieces that you want to throw in that are additional, you can certainly do that. Because all of you have expert areas in different facets across campus. So pull that expertise in and feel comfortable doing so. But just make sure that you're covering the content in its entirety. Let's see. The grading. You will see the grading scale here. It's pretty self-explanatory. For the first year seminar portion, that's a non-enhanced portion, it's 1,000 points possible. There's 1,500 points possible if you're teaching an enhanced section. So 500 points of the 1,500 come from the reading enhanced portion. So, does that make sense, Casey?
It does.
Good, okay. So your FYS portion is no different than anybody else's. It's just additional for the enhanced.
Okay, because when Laura gave it to me last time, she's like, what's this going to be for you? And I was like, oh, why? Now I
That's
get
right.
all
So
the
you will
information.
get, whenever the reading faculty are finished and polished up on their assignments, you will get an updated syllabus that has the full 1,500 points added.
Perfect. Love that.
Okay, well, I'm glad I was able to clarify that. I was nervous that was, she's an E,
So we,
yes,
so we.
As is Meg.
Just the four of us.
I thought that was
No,
just a
she's
head
teaching,
The FYS.
The
I'm not
FYS
teaching-
portion.
I'm not
Okay.
teaching the
Gotcha.
Tuesday, Thursday.
Did Laurie not say 1,500?
Yes, but for the 101E.
You have 500 points.
Right.
Yes, we have 1,000, you all have 500 points.
Okay.
Is that clear?
So it's kind of like in addition to,
It is.
there's like an
Right.
increased opportunity.
Yes,
to
and
succeed.
Meg, look at it this way. In
Yeah.
addition to, they're also in class 2 additional times per
Right,
week.
so for support.
Yes.
And unpacking.
Yes,
Are
indeed.
you teaching the part section?
Do
I'm
you
teaching
find,
FYS.
No, she isn't, you are the only ones who are teaching East.
Or both?
I can't teach anybody theory.
Just
And
the
then
enhanced
the
portion, the
okay.
enhanced portion.
So she's not
Meg
teaching.
is, no, she's teaching
Okay.
an FYS 101E section,
And it's on
the
campus.
FYS
Oh,
portion.
that's where parents.
FYS portion. You all are partnering, I'm not sure who your code,
I know, no clue.
I feel like I know that it's one of you, but.
okay?
I
You don't know which
somebody
one.
may have said Bev to me. and
Okay.
I might be
What's your last name?
Quickle with a
Your
Q.
mom. I thought you were
Okay,
mine.
very good.
Hello, I'm so glad I belong to somebody now.
Well, look, Meg,
And I feel like, really just a quick question, and this could go down a rabbit hole, so if
that's
you
okay,
can't answer
that's
it
okay.
quickly,
You can
it's
maybe
cool.
answer it later if I can't.
Yeah, sure, yes. With your experience, do you feel like students are ever resentful for that extra time they have to spend? And how would you navigate just framing that in a way that makes them feel supported and not,
I can totally answer that. I'll totally answer it honestly to you.
okay?
Yes, they can.
Yeah.
And that's why in the past, it hasn't really worked as well. Here's what I'm gonna tell you though. You know, I mentioned the roommate test. They may have a roommate that's not in a non-E, or in an E. And so that may be where they're like, why do I have to do this? That's where we explain to them that you get everything the same. Your FYS portion is totally the same. Yes, you do have this additional support, but it's not just for reading. The reading component is designed to assist the students that they can apply that to every single course. And so we let them know that this is applicable to you and will help you, not just for FYS.
Right.
It's truly designed to help you, and sometimes that works, sometimes it doesn't. They're still
Right.
resentful. And so then what we say is, just bear in mind that it's supporting and helping you in the FYS class. So it's not as if you're doing additional, they do have additional work, it's 500 points.
Right.
But it's not so labor intensive. None of their assignments will be so labor intensive that they are not going to be able to do their FYS and their E. Literally, they can do it in the same setting, and it's probably not going to add a whole lot more time
Right.
because
They're just
it's seamless.
Right.
So we try to explain that to the student as well. The way that I've also encountered that in the past, or counteracted that in the past, is I tell them, you know, I get it. I get it, it's extra time. But I truly believe it's going to be a benefit for you. And I assess that throughout the semester. And what I hope to do or hope to encourage, I don't have an E this semester, and it's blowing my mind. But what I hope to encourage is that you will partner so closely with your team teacher that they're not going to have a problem. They're not going to see that it's 2 distinct courses. It is just what it is. It is the expectation. Now, you can also encourage them, and I encourage you for sure to do that, as will the reading faculty. Tell the students that first week, they can't do it after the first week, but we can make changes potentially. If they go and test and they haven't already tested, if they test out, we can get them out.
Yeah.
Who do the students?
The testing center to schedule. Sharon Reynolds, yes. Just the first week, because that's the only time frame that we can make any tweaks to their schedule for a full semester course.
Yeah.
So keep that in mind. It's better if they do it beforehand, because that way they won't be behind at all. But they can be moved out that first week. Now here's what I'm gonna tell you that's gonna get tricky. I looked at this right before I came, and this will change a little bit, so please don't say Michelle said, even though I'm saying it. I looked at enrollment for all of our FYS and sections from E and non-E, and there's 1,263 students. Here's what I'm gonna tell you. There are students who are registered that their schedules will be dropped because they do not have any intention of coming here. And so my staff on the retention advising side have been reaching out to those students to try to figure out who those students are. 1, to encourage them to stay, but 2, to kind of free up seats because we are out of non-E FYS seats currently. So if we have students who test out of the E, I really, at this point in time, literally at 10 till 2 on Tuesday, I have nowhere to put them in a non-E. But I promise you, we'll have somewhere to put them in the next week or so, because my staff are communicating with the students. We do contact after SOAR, which is the orientation sessions that all freshman students come to get their schedule and to get everything squared away. We do follow up after that. Yes, ma'am?
So you said that there's
Count
new
it down.
seats. How are the seats looking in E? Like, would one of our classes get canceled?
I can promise you that no class will be canceled at this point.
Okay.
No. No class, I mean, unless you literally went down to a handful of students, then we would have to look at that differently, but that's not going to happen. I can promise you, based on the last 2 years, students are just not testing it out.
Okay.
And to be frank with you, whenever, going back to Meg's question, they have that option. They can control that. They can test. It's $10 to test, and I know that's cost prohibitive to some students, believe it or not, but they can test out. But many of them say, I don't want to. I'll just do it. Well, then it's their control. So that's why it's very important that first week that you tell them they have the option. And I promise you, at that point, we'll find somewhere to put them in a non-E. Yes, ma'am?
Sorry, Priscilla.
No, good questions.
Do they still get the same credit? So hypothetically,
Yes.
I'm in an E, you are not in E. We still get the same 3 credits and it shows up on my transcript,
That's right.
the exact same
Mhm.
as someone who's not in E.
That's correct. The state of Kentucky.
I know exactly how I'm gonna sell it.
There you go, that's true. There you go. In the state of Kentucky, about 6, 7 years ago, you were talking about the remedial classes. We had what was considered zero classes, which was 099, 097. The state of Kentucky said, you can no longer do that because it's not credit bearing, right? And so what we had to then do is figure out a way, math, English, and reading, to incorporate the components that were happening in the E's, or the O's at that time. And that's how the enhanced portions across campus were created, because it's embedded into those courses, to make sure that the students are getting the needs that they need while getting credit-bearing courses at the same time. So does that explain that a little bit more?
Yes.
Okay,
Yes.
very good. Good question. Don't at all hesitate to ask questions. I'm happy to answer them. A lot of them I won't know, but I'll try.
You're killing it so far.
Okay. Class attendance. Okay, I'm gonna address this. I will address this a little bit more concretely, or Dr. Couch will, Thursday at the all instructor training, when everybody will be there, the new folks as well as the returners. This was still being debated yesterday, because I had a staff meeting and my staff were saying, what's the attendance policy? You know, because for the last 2 years with COVID, there really hasn't been one. And we had to bend over backwards to be completely flexible, and it was the right thing. We are now in a period where the university is looking at the COVID situation as an endemic, meaning it's very similar. I'm not suggesting it's a similar virus. I'm saying the situation is going to be treated very similarly to a student who might have a cold or a flu, that type of thing. Now, what Laura would tell you, because I'm telling you what she told my staff yesterday, and we'll elaborate more on this Thursday, but you really need to decide how you want to handle this situation. Because we tell them, it's here, it's in black and white, you're required to come to class so that you can complete the assignments, because a lot in the lesson, for the assignments, is pulled in the lesson. And so they cannot answer, well, concretely answer some of the questions that are built into their assignments unless they're actually present to be there to go over the lesson or hear the lesson. So class attendance is required for that purpose if they truly want to do well. Now, can they still pass? Yes. But they're not going to get every piece of information that they need unless they're in class. And so that's really where I want you in the class in the early days to encourage that class attendance is really required for that purpose. It's stopping short of saying, you know, if you miss 3 classes unexcused, your grade will be reduced. We used to do that. We haven't done that since COVID, and we're not going to do that this year from what I've been told. Academic Affairs has decided that we're still going to give instructors, as we should, some level of flexibility. So stay tuned. You'll hear more about that on Thursday to kind of clarify it for you. but I think it's fair to say that there's not a specific requirement. And I'm gonna be honest with you, my family, entire family in November had COVID, and it was a prior strain, and it was one that was pretty significant. Thankfully for me, you know, as the mom, I was thankful that I was the sickest. The rest of my family did pretty well with it. I don't want it again. And so if a student tells you that they're not feeling well, you need to decide how you're gonna handle that, and I would recommend that you do it consistently from the beginning. Because if you tell them you have to come to class, no exceptions, they're gonna come when they're sick. And they may be sharing things that you don't want to get yourself, and you certainly don't want your other students to have. So think about that, and we'll talk more about that on Thursday at the all instructor training. But I wanted to throw that in because it is on the syllabus, obviously. I'm gonna let you review other class policies, those types of things that we will be updating. I can tell you MSU in general is not compliant with the ADA guidelines, and so we're having to update those. So the wording for the ADA statement for the syllabus may change too. I'll get that for you for the final version when you can actually start making your own template, that type of thing. So stay tuned. So let's talk just a little bit about, if you skip over to starting with week 1, some of the assignments things. I'm not going to go into great detail on some of these areas unless you want that, because I want to explain some of these, and if you have questions I can clarify. Otherwise I'm going to breeze over some of these if that's okay with everybody. Really that first week, let me give you some, I'm going to give you more tips than really talking about what's here. That first week, you are going to see that, you know, this is the class they don't necessarily know a whole lot about. My staff try to talk with them about what to expect in all their classes, particularly their first year seminar, so they know a little bit about it. But they're going to come very like, oh gosh, they'll be overwhelmed. And so I would love it, and this is the intent you know, of the FYS course, is that if you can alleviate some of that awkwardness that they probably are feeling in their other classes, that sense of overwhelming, just anxiety that some may feel, let them walk into your classroom and take that sigh of relief to say, hey, if you're feeling a little overwhelmed, if you have questions, if you literally don't know where to go next, let them know from the beginning that you're that person that can help them answer that, or route them to the person that can. Because week 1 is really giving them an opportunity to understand the syllabus, know what the student handbook is about, and find locations on campus. We're calling it Eagle Chase. It used to be Goose Chase, if you are familiar with any of the components before. We're calling it Eagle Chase. And so that assignment in and of itself will help the student get more familiar with campus. It is always amazing to me because, you know, Moore has a small place, or at least I feel like it is, but we have a lot of students that come from even smaller areas. And so when they get here, this campus is big to them, and it's overwhelming. And, you know, they say that things are not well marked, and I think in the last few years we've done a little bit better job of that, but I get why they would say that. And so the Goose Chase or Eagle Chase now is designed to help them find key areas across campus so that we force them to get more acclimated. So that's literally the week 1. So by design, those are the topics, but it also allows you, hopefully allows you, a little more time to help them get settled. That's our goal. That's my tip for the first week. Get them settled. Help them feel more comfortable in your class, but also here at MSU in general. And let them know that they've got this. They can do this. Week 2, you know, you see there what professors expect of you, that type of thing. We're trying to educate the students because here's what happens. Regardless of what academic level that your student may come from, or socioeconomic status, or level of preparation in general, when they get here, they do not know what it takes to be a successful college student. They may have been a tremendous high school student. They may have taken 61 credit hours. I use that because we had a student this morning who has 61 credit hours that they're bringing. They were a high school student, true high school student. They may have been the best, and probably are, if they have that many hours of dual credit. Like you can attest to that. He worked in dual credit before. They may have been the best student ever, but that does not mean that they know how to navigate at Morehead State and that they know how to be a college student. And so we start to introduce them to that in week 2. So, and let them know what professors expect. And it's okay to say, I'm gonna be honest with you, and I might get dinged for this outside of this room. It's okay to say, you know, this is your welcoming space, however you wanna say that. You may not feel so welcomed in other classes. Some, you know, faculty, there's a thing, academic freedom, and I respect it highly. But not every faculty member across campus strives to, or even has it on their radar, to make the student feel welcomed. So they may not feel that everywhere. So they need to know that it may be a stark reality when they enter that class that is very different than your first year seminar. But you've got to address it so they know to expect that. And they may have totally surprising experiences where it's wonderful across the board, and if so, that's great. So that's kind of like week 2. Week 3 really starts the academic skills, because here's what I'm going to tell you. For the first 2 weeks they've been in honeymoon phase, it's so fun. Oh my goodness, it's the best thing ever. They're telling their parents they don't want to come home. They're going to all the events that first year programs and student activities have coordinated for them. They're loving life. Week 3 hits, week 3, I said 2. Week 3 hits, and they are in reality. And they're like, oh my gosh, I've got my first assignment in physics, or, you know, I've got my first chemistry assignment, or I've got my first, you know, art display, or whatever the case may be. That's when it really starts to hit for them, that they are in an environment that they weren't necessarily, maybe, prepared to be.
I'm good.
Okay,
I'll
thanks.
let you know I'm
Thanks.
available
Okay,
if
thank
you
you
need
so much, thank you, Xavier. So we have assignments built into that to really help them start thinking about why they're here, be thinking about how they can be successful and what skills they may need to be successful here at Morehead State. We start talking about grit and perseverance, because let me tell you, this is the week, and Casey, you can probably say this from your background in housing, this is when we see students start to retreat. I am done. This is awful. I can't do this. College is not right for me. Week 3 is when it hits, I'm telling you. Week 3 and 4, it's pivotal. Happens every semester. And so we start talking to them about, you know, here are the skills that you need in order to get through not only your first semester, but the next 4 years so that you can get this degree. So grit is a really powerful tool that they need to know how to use for their benefit. So we talk about some of those things. We talk about procrastination. And we take that by the horns, because many students, especially the first 2 weeks, because their assignments in most of their classes are light, not for FYS. You can see we've got assignments every single week, because we don't want them to think that, you know, each week they don't need to stay on top of it. But this is where week 3, some of their other assignments, 1 into even week 4, and other classes are going to hit. So just be mindful of that. Week 4 and 5, I haven't said a whole lot about this, and so I'm going to say it now. What you can anticipate is you're going to have a number of students, maybe 1 or 2, maybe none, I don't know, I doubt that. But you're going to have some students that are going to come to you with mental health concerns, or you're going to pick up on them. Now, you're not expected, if you're not a mental health clinician, to be a mental health clinician by any stretch. Certainly don't go above your credentials or outside of your credentials. Nobody's expecting you to do that by any stretch. But hopefully by weeks 4 and 5, you know your students well enough that you can pick up on various aspects that may be outside of the norm for them already, or they may tell you. In most cases, students will tell you. I've been diagnosed with depression, anxiety, been medicated for, I mean, they'll tell you their medications that they take. And you know, that unloading for me early on in my career was a little uncomfortable. But now, I am a mental health first aid, nationally certified mental health first aid instructor. And I did that one reason. One, I work so closely with Counseling and Health Services. They're a strong partner for us on our campus. But 2, my staff were constantly telling me in the advising sessions they were having with their students and in class for a first year seminar or whatever it is they teach, that students were really showing more and more signs of concern. And so I got this national certification so that I could help my staff be able to pick up on these cues so that we can identify a potential mental health concern, and to know how to route students appropriately for additional support. Now, if you want to do a mental health first aid class, we're going to be offering some of those this fall. Lake and Newcomb and one of my staff, 2 weeks ago, got a national certification as an instructor. So there's 3 of us on campus now, and so this fall we're gonna be offering some of those, and so if you want to come, please do. I'll be pushing information out via our outlets for first year seminar to let you know, because you are going to encounter students that have mental health concerns. And so there's reasons that we spend 2 weeks talking about mental health and overall well-being, mental and physical well-being. So that's weeks 4 and 5. The content's pretty heavy in those weeks. And you know, it's supposed to be, because we want them to know that we identify that they may be having some struggles in those areas. And so there's a lot of resources that are thrown into those weeks as well. So you'll have access to see all that information. Week 6, that's safety, campus safety, as I was telling you. That's one area where we may have an adjustment where it says an online speaker. It may be an in-person speaker. It may be the guy that we've used for quite some time. His name's C.L. Lindsay. It may not be, so stay tuned. We'll update you on that, but that week for sure will still be dedicated to campus safety for sure. This is one where there's a video that we use that can be triggering for students who've had some past trauma. And so we talk about that in the lessons in week 6. That you know, we show a campus shooting scenario, and it's a mock scenario. But if students have been in an environment where that's happened, or anything transferable to that where they have some triggers or PTSD, it can be a challenge. And so that week you need to watch for that. I've had it happen in my class. And you know, do you have to be the person who administers support to them? No. You know, if you don't feel comfortable doing that, but you need to be able to attend to their needs and let them know it's okay to walk out if you feel uncomfortable. I'll check on you a little later once we get the lesson rolling. But campus safety is definitely a week where, and especially in week 6 too, the students should start to be getting a little settled, and you'll find that for sure too. And that's a good thing. Settled if they're settling positively, but some of them may start to exhibit poor academic behaviors that you'll pick up on well before then as well. Now, the state of Kentucky a few years back told all state institutions across Kentucky that we had to make sure that students left the university with some level of financial knowledge. So you will see 3 weeks is what I've put into this broken up into this syllabus. 3 financial focused weeks. The first one being week 7, where we're going to talk to them about financial aid. Now, this is one area I'm going to tell you, I have students tell me all the time, I don't need to know anything about that. My mom, she did my FAFSA, all that kind of stuff. And this is the one week I'm telling you that students tell me after, wow, I didn't know that. And this is also an opportunity, if you haven't done it before, which you will, that you introduce the student to standing on their own 2 feet, that they are the driver of their education, that they are the ones who now need to be responsible for making sure that their financial status at the university and their ability to fund their education is taken care of. And so this is a really important week that some students dismiss, and then when we're in it, they're like, oh my gosh, I didn't realize that. So all the financial weeks are about that. Week 8 is college relationships. This is, you know, talking about the transition to college from high school, how the relationships with parents, with friends, with professors, you know, may evolve or change or be created. It's a really interesting week because they're writing, I think we've got a reflection in week 8. Yeah, it's a reflection. It's an assignment. It's a quiz and then a reflection. They'll tell you that, wow, I didn't realize how much I've changed in a month. And they'll explain that, and so I think that's kind of neat to see. So that's a very good week. It's an interesting week, and I think you'll enjoy that as well. Week 9 is career preparedness. That's another thing. At MSU, which again, the impetus was the Council on Post-Secondary Education said we had to do this, all state schools, and so of course we did. But we were already kind of doing this anyway. The state, the CPE tells us that we have to ensure that not only do we get our students to degree completion in a timely manner, you know, because we're a performance funding state, and so there's metrics that we attend to. There's 27 metrics currently. These are being, it's in legislature to kind of change these a little bit. But of those 26 or 27, about 20 of them are academic focused. So my office is heavily involved in that area. And one of those is definitely career ready. And so the state says it's not enough any longer for Morehead State for you to get them to degree completion in 4 years. By the way, you have to have them career ready to literally launch once they get that diploma. And so, come on in, come on in. No, come on in, yes, thank you. So career preparedness is a big piece of that too, and so that's week 9. Week 10, we're getting them ready to start thinking about the spring, so getting them enrolled, meeting with their advisor, having those discussions, those types of things. Week 11 is academic honesty and integrity, because believe it or not, students, some come to us programmed, these ladies are going to be speaking to us in just a few minutes, but believe it or not, students come programmed to us, they have not been taught, or either they didn't listen when they were taught, that it's not okay to copy and paste information into other documents for your assignments. Now, probably in the past, their educators have talked to them about that until they were blue in the face, but when they get to us, they're like, what? I can't just copy paste. And so academic integrity is a big piece of what we try to do in week 10, or week 11, I'm sorry. Yes, if you need to step out to go to the restroom or anything like that, we're going to do a break before these ladies speak, but if you need to go ahead, you go right ahead. Week 12, we're going to talk about implicit bias. It's diversity focused. We will have a speaker for that, a very engaged speaker, so I think you'll find that interesting. 13 is the budgeting and spending. That's another one of those requirements. This is another one where the students are simply in awe that they really need this. And after the week, they're like, oh my gosh, that was the most beneficial week for me. So I think you'll find that too. Likewise with week 14 for using credit. And then 15 is getting them prepared for the end of the semester. This will happen literally as quickly as I've gone through this. The semester will breeze by. And inevitably the students will say, oh my gosh, I can't believe we're at the end of the semester. You know, they'll get a little overwhelmed. And this is a time frame where you can kind of settle them back down. You know, you had to settle them down in the beginning. You had to see how they were doing throughout the middle part of the semester, and things were smooth sailing. Week 15, 14, 15, you're going to have to settle them down again because they're getting a little nervous for what's to come after. And then 16 is getting them ready, you know, for the next semester, their career, thinking bigger picture, that type of thing, and then finals. So I know I breezed through that very quickly, but everything that I went over has so many resources and additional types of things that you can utilize to help you go over that content. And so you'll get access very, very soon. Xavier has been working diligently on updating the Blackboard shell. Xavier, you are through week what?
12.
12. Oh my gosh, you got them all?
Yes.
I just handed these off to him last week, so I'm very impressed. So the goal is, what's your goal to have it accessible for everybody?
Well, there are a few questions that I've already sent on to
Yeah.
Lynn about what was in the document. One of them is C.L. Lindsay. Really, as soon as I get a syllabus from you, I could probably start copying.
Okay.
Ideally, I would have the whole thing, but I can do 12 weeks. I've done that before.
So what I can promise you is by Thursday, I think it's safe to say they'll have access to weeks 1 through 6. Can we say that, or do you want to do it all at one time?
I could do up to 12 right now, but like I said,
You're waiting on those. Okay. Well, very, very soon.
I have to have the
will-
syllabus to start though.
Okay. Well, we just had an update, I was telling the folks today from Academic Affairs on things that need to be added, so I'll get you a syllabus very soon.
Good.
So very soon, you'll have access to your Blackboard shell so that you can see that. You can get in there and start becoming more familiar with the assignments, the lessons. You'll see the lesson plans that I was talking about and all of this other stuff for each week. Here's the other thing you need to know. You don't ever have to feel, and we'll talk about this a little later, but I'll go ahead and throw in a tidbit. You don't ever have to feel that you're on an island. And so I will be available for support. The associate director in my department, Sarah Larson, will also be available for support, and also Dr. Couch. But generally, Sarah and I would be the two that you can contact us, and we can probably get you an answer to about any question that you may have pretty quickly. Yes?
And any Blackboard questions can go to my department.
There we go. Yes, and you probably will have some of those. I did early on as well. So Let's go ahead, are you okay if we take a little break?
Yeah.
Okay, and then come back and start with you, okay? Let's go ahead and let everybody take about a 10-minute break if you can, because we've got some speakers who are gonna talk with you about, more about the FYS perspective as far as the instructors. That's okay. That's quite That's fine, we'll see you then.
For
Yes,
students
thank you, I'm glad you're
that
here.
need help.
Okay, so students.
Yes, ma'am. Okay, so you've got some options. First line of defense, and I'll be here, is you'll have a peer leader assigned to you. And so we're gonna talk a lot more about peer leaders Thursday, so I'm not really talking a lot about it today.
I'm just going
But
back to
ideally,
finding out
peer leader will be
everything
in class
I
with you.
contact, who do I call?
They will know the content, and
Yep.
if you feel comfortable.
We are the local Ghostbusters.
Administrator,